Welcome to today's podcast. We will dive into the topic of body perception in the United States and Ecuador. Together with our guest, Rina Kirst, we explore how culture, media, and social expectations shape how people view their bodies in their two distinct countries. From the influence of social media and beauty standards to the rise of movement like body positive, we'll discuss the difference and similarities between these cultures. We also touch on important issues like eating disorder, concerns like obesity and strength sickness, and the role of the socioeconomic factors in shaping body ideals. Good afternoon, Rina. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm in a study space on campus, and we have like a lot of our projects finishing up before Thanksgiving because we have break off for Thanksgiving. But I'm good. Lots of papers to write, but very good.
Okay, now tell me what about your champion yesterday?
Oh, yes. So I'm on the equestrian team. It's a club sport, and we basically the way that this circuit of like horse shows goes is that you go and you don't have to bring your own horse and you pick a horse out of a raffle and that's the horse that you compete on for the day. And so our team went and we're a small team and we're not super professional, but we're a team that's very accepting to everyone because riding horses is like a very expensive sport and it's not very accessible all the time. So, so yeah, we had a really good time. We ended up winning, so it was really great.
Nice, wonderful. Well,
Mm.
let's start with the question for the podcast of body perception in the US versus Ecuador. Um, how would you describe body perception in the United States and Ecuador?
I would say that the United States has a complicated relationship, and I can't fully say like what it is like in Ecuador. But I would say that oftentimes our body perceptions are driven by what the sort of the elite celebrity class is pushing. So if celebrities are outspoken about body positivity, then culturally people are going to be more outspoken about body positivity. And if celebrities are also pushing like weight loss drugs or extreme workout programs, or they're particularly very thin, then that's what's very popular in the rest of society. It's sort of a trickle down effect, um, which is really interesting. Like historically, um, in the United States, it used to be that like back in like the Victorian era, it used to be that if you had more weight, if you weighed more, that was seen as a marker of wealth because you could afford to feed yourself in excess. So the elite class was sort of attached to that idea of being like of having more weight, and then you were more of the beauty standard. But then I think it's changed so much over time as well that I think we're back to a state where thinness is very much prioritized, especially with this rise of new weight loss drugs in the United States. I
Okay,
think in Ecuador, something that might shift the perception of body image probably has a lot more to do with the practice of colonization. I think that people will note differences. This is from just my experience in other Latin American countries, so I don't know if this specifically happens a lot in Ecuador, but people will note how certain people look more maybe indigenous versus European, um, and that's something that I picked up on that might affect people's body images in Ecuador, maybe.
okay. So we can say that this perception takes for the influence of media and social media.
Yes, for sure.
So how do you think media and social media influence body perception?
I think that especially with younger generations spending a lot of time on the phone, um, and then following certain people that push a certain body ideal, um, they're constantly inundated with images of what their body should be, and when they don't have a chance to just be themselves without that kind of input, then that can be really dangerous. Um, my part of the project, like on my end, I'm looking at if the rate of social media use affects muscle dysmorphia. So if men, specifically in
Mhm.
Peru, feel that they don't have enough muscle on their body because they're constantly seeing photos of bodybuilders and actors and athletes who have the means to be perfecting their body like all the time to whatever image they want. Also, I think celebrities, like I said, that control the the beauty standard, they also have access to surgeries and special trainers and then photoshopping. Like, their social
Mhm.
media is full of photoshopping.
I don't know
Um,
if you see this content, but maybe we make the example about the girl who said we need to respect the people who have obesity or anorexia, and the girl then up a photo of his body and
mhm.
receive like or many and doesn't care about the shape of the other one.
I think I have, like, seen some influencers that champion that idea of, like, body positivity, like, on social media, especially in, like, the 2010s. But I think in the last, like, decade or so, people are less less content with just, like, saying all bodies are beautiful, which is the case. Like, all people should love themselves no matter what position they're in and what they look like, with health as the number one priority. But, um, but I think it's in the United States, at least, it's swung from, like, more body positivity in the last 10 years to more, like, criticism of people's bodies.
Okay. Another problem about promote this movement is about eating disorders and the impact of beauty standards. And we know
Mhm.
that beauty standards can lead to extreme in both countries. Could you talk about some trends in the United States that contribute to eating disorders such as anorexia or bulimia?
Yeah, I think that, like, disordered eating habits like that specifically tend to target people I mean, the typical, opinion of a lot of experts on eating disorders is that it's a thing that has to do with control, and when people don't feel in particularly in control of other things in their life, they might try to control exactly what goes in or out of their body. So I think that the rate of those things can happen, like, especially among young women or just young people in general when they're feeling a lack of control, at least in the United States, from what I know. And I think that social media affects it because people, specifically like celebrities, present themselves as like they present themselves as perfectly in control of their entire environment. Everything's perfect. They can control what they're projecting into the world. And so when other people see that, they think, I need that body type or I need to look that way. And then that might lead to a downward spiral into eating disorders.
Maybe I don't know very good, but that's problem about anorexia or bulimia doesn't
Mhm.
really common in United States. It's more about obesity or um.
I think it's hard to say because we're such a huge country. I think that people are oftentimes on different ends of the spectrum. I think some statistic recently came out that said about a quarter of Americans are obese. Um, but I think that both of these problems have to do with access to healthy food. We have a very different culture and relationship to food here, where if you don't have access to healthy food all of the time, if you're working many jobs, if you don't have access to transportation that could get you to and from like a good grocery store with vegetables and fruit and those things just aren't affordable, then you're going to be eating more junk food and suffering as a consequence of that. Um, so I definitely think it's a big part here, but I think that there's always two ends of the spectrum in such a huge country because there's so many people. So you have a lot of people who are struggling with obesity and then a lot of people who are struggling with eating disorders at the same time.
Okay. I also want to ask you about impact and socioeconomic context of body perception. And for example, What role do you think socioeconomic context play in how the body is perceived in the United States and Ecuador? You can say your opinion about Ecuador.
I think again, like because the elite upper class is often controlling the image of what exactly is the ideal body type. Um, I think that it becomes a tool for them to maintain control over people who don't have as much access to healthy food or access to grocery stores, things that would actually assist them in like a weight loss journey or gyms or medication. And so like I think that socioeconomic struggles really contribute um to like obesity specifically in the United States because the elite have access to all of this like good healthy food and they have the time as well to be thinking about it because they're not worried about just paying for things, getting any food on the table. I think something to even consider in the United States when it comes to obesity is like a lot of families struggle just to be getting food on the table, um, and so um, and so they don't have the time to think about like, is this exactly the most healthy thing to be feeding my family, or is this the most healthy thing to like um, to feed myself when people who are socioeconomically like privileged or very yeah, if they're privileged then they have the time to think about those things.
Okay, okay, Duina. And to conclude, do you think we are moving towards or a move inclusive society that is less focused on physical ideals in both countries?
Unfortunately, I think the pendulum has swung. So like I said before, in the United States, it was that people were much more accepting of different types of bodies and how people looked. And I think it's swinging back the other way very quickly, where people are very judgmental of different types of bodies. And again, like this rise of weight loss medication, that is sort of a shortcut and isn't necessarily healthy all the time. It's not always a healthy option for someone. Um, that is deeply impacting how we perceive what is attractive and what is not, or what is the ideal body type and what isn't. Yeah, so I think the trends are swinging back and forth every like 10 years or so, and right now we're in a period um where anything above really skinny is not perceived to be the body ideal, especially by the elite celebrity class or by like um people with access to more money and more resources.
Okay, thanks Trina for your time. If you wanna make a reflection on Spanish, you're welcome.
No sé, no tengo más palabras. En el futuro vamos a hablar de la percepción de los cuerpos y músculos en Perú. Entonces, ya, muchas gracias por la oportunidad para hablar de ese tópico contigo y todo bien.
Gracias a ti, Trina.
Sí.
This discussion highlights how body perception in the United States and Ecuador are shaped by culture, sociology, and media-driven influences. In the US, celebrity culture heavily dictates beauty standards, oscillating between body positivity and increased criticism. Ecuador, influenced by colonial legacy and indigenous European narrative, experienced similar pressures filtered through a unique cultural lens. Health change like eating disorders and obesity were central to the conversation, emphasizing the role of socioeconomic factors such as access to healthy food and balanced lifestyles. Both countries face the need to balance body acceptation with promotion health. Looking forward, fostering inclusivity and reducing unrealistic beauty standards will require systematic change in media, education, and public health, encouraging society where all bodies are respected and valued.